le bonsoir, bonsoir dans cette nouvelle édition de Les Camerounais parlent aux Camerounais. Donc cette plateforme dans laquelle nous réunissons donc ce que le Cameroun compte de fines fleurs en matière d'analyse, donc d'analyse politique, en matière de savoir, pour justement édifier la conscience camerounaise et puis aussi permettre de former le citoyen et d'avoir la possibilité de mieux déjà percevoir donc la vie publique au Cameroun et surtout aussi de pouvoir agir en fait en conséquence, de prendre donc les meilleures décisions qui s'imposent, notamment donc dans le contexte camerounais actuel donc qui est marqué par une crise post-électorale avec des développements inédits, c'est-à-dire que qui n'ont jamais été observés dans la vie politique des 30-40 dernières années du Cameroun. Donc aujourd'hui, j'ai un invité spécial today. So I have a guest, a special guest who is named Eric Asha. So Eric Asha is a policy expert and the executive president of the think tank named African Policy Forum. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So welcome, Eric Asha. Welcome on board.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
yes, okay, thank you very much for that. So we noticed that you are a very, very good observer of the politics in Cameroon. So you know the context in Cameroon, and also that you have also a lot of understanding of what's going on in Africa. So reason why we choose, let's say I propose you so this invitation so to join this discussion to try to enlighten us in what is going on exactly in Cameroon and to understand exactly what are, let's say, the possible solution to get out from the post-electoral crisis that we are facing right now in Cameroon. So, Eric Acha, la première question que j'aimerais en fait vous poser, ça concerne donc la dernière élection donc présidentielle qui s'est tenue donc, le 12 octobre 2025. En règle générale, c'était une élection qui semblait être pliée compte tenu du fait que la candidature donc, de Maurice Kamto, le président de Maurice Kamto, puisqu'elle a démissionné du MRC, Maurice Kamto avait été écarté et où tout semblait apparemment être plié. Et je me souviens même notamment qu'un journaliste de Jeune Afrique titrait que l'opposition camerounaise était une des oppositions les plus bêtes d'Afrique. Donc, comme quoi, elle ne réussissait pas en fait à créer une unité pour faire face donc à ce régime qui était présenté comme étant tentaculaire et puis invincible. Vous, déjà à ce moment-là, quelle était votre perception donc du régime Biya à l'approche des élections ou même peut-être depuis son dernier mandat qui a commencé en 2018?
Yeah, thank you, Timba, and greetings to your entire audience. It's a pleasure to be or to appear on your show here, where, as you rightly put, the Cameroonians talking to Cameroonians. It's an honor, and I think a very good opportunity for us to share our views and what we think about the current situation, which in a way it's very delicate and special at the same time. The current situation in Cameroon, if I would put it the way you've just analyzed there since the last mandate that Paul Biya had in 2018, has been one full of ups and downs, because there is a school of thought that thinks the current regime seems to have spent 7 years trying to look for a way to eliminate the person they thought was the strongest opposition, who was Maurice Kamto, not knowing that there was going to be a surprise that will keep them much more busy and struggling than the Maurice Kamto. Because I think now many people are agreeing that the regime seems to be regretting why Maurice Kamto's candidacy was rejected. Because
Right.
to me, that would have been an easier person to deal with than what they're facing today with Chiroma. Because the reason why I'm saying this is because what we saw on October 12th wasn't just an election. It seems to have been a kind of a referendum on the situation in Cameroon. Cameroonians went in there on October 12th, not only to elect a person that they believe should be the new leader, but a kind of conducting a referendum on Paul Biya, whom everybody in Cameroon, internationally, thought it was time for him to step aside and protect his legacy while ensuring a smooth transition in Cameroon. That's what the international community expected. That's what Cameroonians expected. So him joining the race to run for the presidency did kind of like sideline Cameroonians and push many of them to step out there and give him a no vote, because that's what happened from the
Right.
results that we all knew from the polling stations, not the ones that were declared. Yeah.
Exactement, exactement, Eric Kacha. Et je ne sais pas si en fait vous vous souvenez qu'il y a notamment Léon Teller Onana, hein, donc du parti de Paul Biya, dans le RDPC, qui en fait avait déjà commencé à monter une sorte de fronde interne, donc demandant clairement à Paul Biya de ne même pas du tout se présenter. Il y a eu aussi plein d'appels de citoyens camerounais sous diverses formes, même des chanteurs, ainsi de suite, qui demandaient mais papa va te reposer, pardon, I don't know if you remember. So,
Absolutely.
the singer named Longue Longue. So a lot of appeal were coming from the country, so to ask Bia to step back. And I remember that also Maurice Kamto in his meeting in Paris asked Paul Biya so that, or let's say, give Paul Biya, let's say, some securities that if he lose the election, nothing will happen to him. Comment est-ce qu'on peut expliquer donc, Eric Kacha, cet acharnement-là de Paul Biya à ne pas vouloir céder la place? Comment on peut le comprendre dans le contexte camerounais?
It's Timber, I would tell you, it's a very unfortunate situation, and one which many analysts and experts are questioning what exactly were Paul Biya's motives. Because from every indication, it was clear, it was obvious that people were patient to allow him run until his last mandate. There were Cameroonians just waiting, saying, you know what, let's give this papa, as they call him, this last shot to run through his last mandate and exit the political scene in Cameroon with some honor, with some dignity, and let Cameroonians now then continue and see how they can rebuild the country, given all what has happened. The opportunity that was given to him there by Maurice Kamto, even though many are interpreting it, giving different meanings to it, but that statement that he made in Paris was very symbolic and carried a lot of weight, because that was like a key opponent telling you that if you lose these elections, your security, your future is guaranteed. So there will be nothing to worry about on what will happen to you. There will be no repercussions. There will be no witch hunting and so forth. If you lose this election, we are guaranteeing you security after the elections. So you shouldn't worry. It was interpreted in different ways, and some even laughed at the Maurice Kamto for making such a proposal. Because to him, or to those who were laughing, they knew that him Kamto was not going to be a candidate, because at that moment the mechanization was already in place. They had fixed everything to ensure that his candidacy was going to be rejected. So whatever thing he was saying in Paris didn't carry any weight to the regime. Now, coming internally with Onana, I do follow him quite a lot on the social media. I follow this movement. I've been seeing his activity. Those were all signs that the CPDM machinery was cracking up. Even internally within his party, people were becoming tired. Young people wanted to be given an opportunity. They had lived their entire lives. I don't know how old Onana is. He should be maybe in his 40s, but I don't think he's up to 50 years old. Meaning the only person he has known throughout his life or throughout his activities with the CPDM is Paul Biya. Now, for any ambitious young man who is politically mature and willing to participate or contribute to the growth of his nation, they have ambitions. They want to be given the opportunity to contribute to the nation building. It wouldn't be an issue where every 7 years they have one and the same person standing as a candidate, and they, the young people of that party, are expected by default to support that candidate. So for Onana to have that courage to step out there and say, no, they want something different, was something that should be applauded. At the very beginning, people didn't think he was serious, if you remember, There were those
Yes,
who
yes,
thought
yes.
that he was being used, or he was only an instrument being used by the CPDM to distract people. But I had analyzed it and seen that this young man was determined. He wasn't messing around here. He wanted something different. And that was on his voice, which was that of many, many young Cameroonians within the CPDM party, not Cameroon as a whole.
En
Yeah,
effet.
who wanted something different.
En effet. Et on peut en effet bien voir la préparation en fait de Léon Teller Onana à travers notamment tout l'argumentaire, on va dire, juridico-légal qu'il a produit. C'est-à-dire, par exemple, de démontrer en fait que Paul Biya était même déjà illégal dans son propre parti. Et je me pose justement la question, est-ce que ce n'est pas déjà le début, en fait, on va dire, d'une forme de démystification? Parce que, en règle générale, dans l'imaginaire camerounais, c'est-à-dire que, bon, on sait très bien que le régime Biya, c'est un régime tyrannique, mais il y a toujours eu cet argument comme quoi il y a un souci de faire les choses selon la loi, c'est-à-dire que de donner une apparence de légalité en fait à ces arrangements tyranniques-là. Est-ce que justement le fait que le RDPC se montre finalement à la face de tout le monde comme étant un parti qui ne respecte même pas ses propres règles, ses propres statuts, n'est pas donc justement déjà, donc n'a pas été le premier, on va dire, le premier coup porté finalement à cet édifice-là qui voulait souvent être présenté comme étant entièrement juridique et puis respectant les lois.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you there, Timba, because what you've just described there marked the beginning of the fall, or marked the beginning of the end of the CPDM. Because throughout the years, they have always projected themselves or projected the government, which is the CPDM, as the biggest respecters of the constitution, the biggest respecters of the law. But it turned out that they were the very ones who started defaulting or disregarding the laws or even the bylaws of the party that required a candidate for the party to be nominated through their, will you call it a kind of a general assembly or a constitutional body of the party that requires them to nominate their candidate. It shouldn't be by default. But they will tell you, no, Pobia is a natural candidate. That's why he was chosen, which Onana and many others within the party disagree. And they had the right to disagree. But that was there. It was a few people fighting a system which is built on disregard for the law. Because that's how within the party, they do not respect the law. Come within the country, they still do not respect that law. Because there were many, many issues that should have led to Paul Biya's candidacy being disqualified. If you followed up very keenly, there were aspects. Look at when they were disqualifying Maurice Kamto on the basis that there were two individuals, Dieudonné and Maurice Kamto, from within the Manindem. But what happened within the CPDM? You had Leon Onana there and Paul Biya. So there was a duality of candidacy within the CPDM. You apply the one law to one party and ignore that same law which you applied to disqualify an individual to your own party. So these are all aspects to show that the entire system, the Cameroon system, is dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional and takes away all the credibility in the eyes of the international community that's observing very, very carefully. The world is observing what is going on in Cameroon very, very carefully. I can assure you. I'm talking with individuals, I'm talking with people internationally. They are observing and monitoring what is going on very carefully.
Yes, of course. And I can just agree with you because if you take, let's say, in Central Africa, Cameroon is a very, very major country, of course. So it's a key country in Central Africa. And if you take, for example, let's say in what we can call the former French colonies in Africa, Cameroon is also a very key country. So I can just agree with you that clearly what is going on in Cameroon can just be very monitored by let's say the top deciders in the world. And j'aimerais juste qu'on revienne un peu sur justement donc cet effondrement là, donc que l'on a observé au niveau du RDPC. Il y a par exemple beaucoup d'observateurs qui disent en fait que ce mandat de Paul Biya a été un peu le mandat de trop parce que justement à travers la délégation de signature qu'il a accordée à au secrétaire général de la présidence, mettons, déjà, bon, Paul Biya n'a jamais été, disons déjà, dans l'imaginaire, c'est pas un bosseur, hein, c'est-à-dire que c'est pas un président qu'on a connu comme étant un grand bosseur. Apparemment, certains de ses ministres disent que la nuit, il travaillait la nuit, bon, ok, why not? Mais disons que de ce qu'on connaît comme étant un bosseur, on ne le voit pas avoir ces qualités-là d'un bosseur, hein. Il n'est pas dynamique, déjà, c'est clair. Non, mais déjà, ce que l'on a justement pu aussi donc observer, c'est que il a été très très peu présent dans la vie publique.
Yeah.
Au point même où les Camerounais, en fait, en étaient réduits à espérer ses apparitions. Je me souviens notamment, il était presque à 40 jours et poussière donc, de séjour à l'étranger, et où finalement, quand il est revenu au pays, les gens commençaient à dire il est de retour. C'est-à-dire que comme si c'était le Messie qui était descendu. Mais est-ce que là aussi, ce ne sont pas des signes, en fait, qui démontrent, en tout cas qui démontraient clairement que bon, ben, le Cameroun, en fait, n'avait plus de pilote en mesure donc de gouverner le navire. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez, Eric Atcha?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. Let me just take you back a little bit. I was having an interview with David Phillips, a senior Financial Times journalist. He was interviewing me on the situation in Cameroon just before the elections and after the elections. And each time I sat down with the Financial Times for the interview, their way of referring to Paul Biya is the absentee president. Eric, how is your absentee president? We heard your absentee president won. This is the way Paul Biya is being described. And that's the way he is known. You cannot imagine that 2 years, or I think over 2 years before the last mandate, which is ending, you told Cameroonians that you were signing off your signature, or you were designating your signature to the Secretary General of the presidency, Ferdinand Gongo. That was you telling Cameroonians that you are no longer capable of fully discharging the functions of that office as it's required by the Constitution. You are no longer capable to operate and carry out all those duties as expected of a president. That's why you are designating your signature to your secretary. And we saw how Cameroon was being ruled, or was being led over the last couple of years. It was one decree after the other, on the high instructions of the president, on the high instructions of the president. That's how the country has been led over the last few years. So Cameroonians were patient enough, knowing that you are no longer capable, you are no longer fit to run this office at 100%. And that's why you designated somebody. So the least Cameroonians expected was that you step aside and allow the younger generation or a new leader to emerge and carry over or continue the mandate from where you are ending. So for him to have decided at the last minute, if you remember, it was at the last minute, there was a debate on whether will Paul Biya put in his candidacy, will he run for the elections or not? Until the last minute, you kept Cameroonians in the darkness. And that's how you've been operating. That's how you've led Cameroon, showing so much disdain, no respect for Cameroonians, always leaving Cameroonians confused, always leaving Cameroonians seeking for information about their leader. When you're talking to partners outside here, at some time you get embarrassed because international partners are asking you questions about your country, about your leader that you can't even answer. They ask, when was the last time he held a ministerial cabinet meeting? When was the last time he had a cabinet meeting? You struggle to even know when he even sat with ministers to talk.
Right.
Because over the last mandate, I do not remember, I can't recall when Biya even sat, even for the cameras. Let's assume that he doesn't want to discuss the issues of Cameroon, that he doesn't want to discuss the situation in Cameroon. He doesn't want to look at how the country is running. Let's say he wants to please the journalist and just for the cameras and pictures. When was the last time Paul Biya sat around a table with his ministers for a photo shoot? I can't remember because it doesn't exist. I have no recollection over the last 7 years.
It's clearly none, none, so none. Et puis aussi, juste pour rappeler, c'est-à-dire qu'il n'y a même pas eu de remaniement ministériel, hein. C'est-à-dire que pas de remaniement ministériel. Et en effet, ce que vous avez bien mentionné, on l'a aussi observé, c'est-à-dire que des conflits entre différents pontes. On a par exemple entendu des conflits entre, par exemple, Laurent et So, c'est-à-dire qu'un des plus puissants soutiens, mettons ça comme ça, donc de Paul Biya avec son SGPR. On a par exemple vu, notamment ce que vous avez cité là, même à la veille de l'élection, ben, cette opposition entre René Sadi, par exemple, qui est considéré comme vraiment une personne très, très modérée, un fin diplomate, hein, et puis on connaît aussi son appétence pour un français, on va dire, très, très châtié, comme ça. Et puis Famé Dongo, voilà, donc avec cette opposition, ben, René Sadi dit non, mais c'est 50-50, et puis l'autre dit non, 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 c'est candidature. Donc, on l'a vu, hein, donc c'était clair. Mais la question que j'aimerais justement vous poser, Eric Atcha, c'est de dire, mais tout le monde a donc constaté que Paul Biya n'est plus en mesure de diriger, que ce soit déjà le gouvernement, que ce soit le pays, que ce soit même son propre parti. Je pense que c'est un peu ce que nous sommes en train de mettre en évidence là. Donc tout le monde l'a constaté. Mais comment en fait on peut expliquer que certains acteurs en embuscade ne se soient pas simplement prononcés en leur propre nom? Par exemple, si le SGPR, hein, si Ferdinand Gongo veut devenir président, ben pourquoi est-ce qu'il, hein, puisqu'en plus on disait qu'il avait une partie du BIR avec lui, tel ou tel ou tel, ben, même des ministres avec lui, ben pourquoi il ne fait pas genre simplement un coup de force et puis il prend en fait les rênes du pays? Comment est-ce qu'on peut comprendre en fait cette en fait, comment je veux dire ça, cette couillardise, hein, parce qu'il n'y a pas d'autre terme en fait pour qualifier ça. Par exemple, je me souviens qu'au niveau du Zimbabwe, par exemple, ben, Emerson Mnangagwa, qui avait été écarté, bon, ben, il s'est arrangé, puis il avait une partie donc, des pouvoirs avec lui, puis ben, il a pris le pouvoir, puis il a envoyé Mugabe se reposer. Comment est-ce qu'on peut comprendre donc au Cameroun, en fait, cela n'ait pas pu avoir lieu avant l'élection du 12 octobre?
I'll give you a very simple answer. You've already mentioned in your answer in trying to phrase a question. The simple fact or the simple issue there, why Ngongo or whoever is trying to orchestrate this coup d'etat, because to me it's a coup d'etat, what they're doing there. Cameroonians may not be saying it. What they're doing there is a coup without using the military. What Ngongo is doing there is using Bia's reign. He wants to use Bia's reign and using the architecture which has existed under Paul Biya to emerge as the leader without clashing with those around him. Because as you said there, amongst themselves there, amongst that clique, there is a lot of infighting amongst them. There is no peace. So for him, using this path through giving Biya a mandate, which is not justified, and then maybe 2-3 years down the line, we would then see where the real Ferdinand Gongo or whoever wants to take over from Paul Biya. It will not last 2-3 years. Should they stay in power? Because where we are, the situation is very fluid. We don't know what will be happening tomorrow. We don't know what will be happening next week or next month. We don't know. But should they succeed in maintaining what they have done now, with Paul Biya being declared a winner and proceeding, the real face behind this whole sham or behind this whole charade will emerge. They will then say, all right, Biya truly is incapacitated. The speaker or the president of the Senate is incapacitated, meaning he cannot take power. And therefore, they should look at other options. They should look at maybe creating the post of a vice president who would then be allocated powers to take over from the current president. What would happen, we do not know, because if you remember, let me take us back a little bit. Before Paul Biya became president, in the days of the YouTube, before Paul Biya became president, you remember that the post of the prime minister was created in 1979 in preparation for that prime minister, whoever that would be, to become president.
Right.
It didn't exist because they know before then the post of the vice president was the one that was second in command. But maybe Ayijo at the time also thought, you know what, if I would want someone that I prefer to be the next president, let me create a post, a position and give them the powers to be the next in command. We shouldn't be surprised if that happens again in Cameroon. We shouldn't be surprised if Paul Biya maintains what they're doing now, and Gongo, with the powers of the signatures that he's got, creates a new position or a new post that sidelines the president of the Senate and every other person that is in line to give him the powers to be the next in line, the next president.
Yes,
so it's very possible.
Eric Kacha, this is one of the possible scenarios. But the question right now is, why didn't they implement that during the last term? Because this is the real question. Because we already knew in Cameroon, even in 2018, that Paul Biya were not able to rule the country. Why they didn't implement it? Because what I can say, let's say mon hypothèse, vous allez un peu me dire ce que vous en pensez, mais mon hypothèse, en fait, c'est que ils ne sont tout simples, c'est qu'il n'y a pas, en fait, possibilité de dégager, on va dire, un leader au niveau du RDPC, simplement. Et que, en fait, les forces du RDPC se neutralisent tellement qu'ils ne dégagent pas de leader. Et à partir du moment où celui qu'ils appellent le leader naturel montre, on va dire, les failles de l'âge, qui sont juste naturelles, en fait, le parti est totalement paralysé parce que les forces, en fait, qu'il a mis en action se neutralisent entre elles. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez, par exemple, de cette explication?
Absolutely. I think I agree with that hypothesis there. And this is what I was trying to explain a preposition before leading here. What is actually the issue is the way the apparatus, the CPDM structure is created it is practically impossible to have another leader at the moment while Paul Biya is still there to emerge and unify the party while Paul Biya is still there. Because amongst themselves, they do not really agree. And it is thanks to the way Biya structured that whole party and created factions, created loyalists within the party and splitted them, that they cannot agree on an alternative candidate than Paul Biya. The only individual that they have a unifying position on is Paul Biya. Apart of Paul Biya, they do not have a unified candidate. They do not have a unified position, which is why there is a school of thought that believes should Biya not succeed this time around, that would be the end of the CPDM. That party could be dissolved.
Yes.
This is a possibility.
No, or let's say for me, it is not really a possibility. It's just a fact. Let's say analytically, so we can just come up to this kind of solution. Of course, it's clear. So c'est que oui, en effet, le RDPC perd le pouvoir, ce parti disparaît donc complètement. Et ça, c'est vraiment clair. Donc là, en fait, Eric Kacha, on a en fait démontré différentes choses à ce niveau-ci. Donc, dans les années qui ont précédé l'élection, on a vu un président qui ne pouvait véritablement pas gouverner, pas de remaniement ministériel. Toutes les grandes promesses électorales, se sont effondrées. Même la campagne de 2018, il n'y a qu'un seul meeting, donc comme encore en 2025. Donc clairement, l'énergie, on va dire, du président ne se faisait plus du tout ressentir. Et en plus de ça, c'est qu'à l'intérieur même de son propre parti, donc les forces sont dans une telle opposition qu'elles se neutralisent et puis on ne réussissent pas en fait à dégager finalement une figure qui peut même renouveler le discours et puis redynamiser le parti. Donc, il y a une fossilisation en fait du RDPC et c'est vraiment dans ces conditions que le parti arrive aux élections. Maintenant, j'aimerais qu'on s'intéresse un peu aux autres acteurs aussi. C'est-à-dire, on a un petit peu parlé de Maurice Kamto. Peut-être on pourrait aussi en dire deux mots sur la scène électorale, donc à l'entame de l'élection, mais surtout aussi, c'est d'observer en fait ce phénomène-là, je pense qui a dû surprendre beaucoup d'observateurs, c'est l'éveil ou alors le réveil du Grand Nord, c'est-à-dire le Grand Nord qui est revenu sur le devant de la scène politique. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'on peut dire des autres acteurs? Par exemple, mettons Maurice Kamto à la veille de l'élection présidentielle du 12 octobre 2025.
Yes, I think that's a very interesting question and a point which we should address very keenly for Cameroonians to understand. And maybe it will set the context for the wider public to understand why we are in this situation and why this current situation is delicate and special. Now, what we are facing now in Cameroon should not in any way be mistaken or be compared to 2018. It is completely different. I may be tempted from my own analysis and point of view to maybe somehow reference 1992, the years of the SDF and the emergence of the multipartism. What Cameroon is facing today is similar or could be put on the same pedestal to that era. But the difference in this 2025 is that we are seeing this emergence coming from a region of the country or a section of the country that is determined to see things change or revert to what they had experienced before. Because I'm referring to that area because that's where the first president of the country came from, Amanda Yijo.
Right.
That hasn't left their minds. They haven't clearly settled with the fact or how that former president was being treated or the treatment he received after stepping down from power. Those thoughts are still very fresh on the people's minds. Now, if we are in a situation today which maybe even Issa Chiroma himself wasn't prepared for, the reaction that he's seeing today, maybe he wasn't even prepared for. But the fact that the entire North, when I mean the entire North, is if we go with the actual results from the polling stations, the vrai PV, if we are looking at those results, the North voted overwhelmingly for Issa Chiroma.
But Eric, we will come. We will come to that. So for sure, make sure.
Let me jump back.
Yes, to just focus on the main actor before this election, before we really dig into the election itself, please.
Okay. Focusing on the actor Issa Chiroma, he has a base in the North which is loyal to him, compared to Maurice Kamto. I'm sorry to say this from analysis. Maurice Kamto had his own base. You could say, I hate using these ethnic original groups to alienate candidates, but that's a reality in Cameroon. We cannot deny it. We cannot reject it. It is a reality. Back in 1992, Frundi had a base from which he emerged and then captured the entire nation. In 2018, Kamto's base wasn't solid. There were fractions within that base. Secondly, Kamto didn't show the energy and the determination and that hard language which we are seeing from Chiroma. Frundi back in 1992 was a bit radical in his ideas. He showed that energy, that he was ready to fight. He was willing to roll his sleeves and fight. People didn't quite see that energy in Kamto, maybe given the way the regime had tried neutralizing him and breaking his foundation. Unlike Chiroma, Chiroma has a solid base in Garoua and other northern cities. There's a base there which is for Chiroma. That base then energizes the entire country. And then coupled with the language that Issa Chiroma is using, that's the language Cameroonians want to hear, and that's the language they believe that can bring change to Cameroon. Not the political, nice, legal approach which Maurice Kamto tried using in 2018. Look like when they came out from the polling stations, Maurice Kamto agreed to follow the legal system, being a legal luminary, being a legal expert. He believed that with his battery of lawyers and legal experts, they were going to challenge the Constitutional Court and get something different. That was being legal and being political. Chiroma doesn't understand that language because Chiroma, prior to these elections, understood that the system is in the hands of the CPDM and Paul Biya. He mentioned in one of his meetings that the Constitutional Council, led by Atangana Clement, is in the hands of the regime. The ELECAM is in the hands of the regime. And the Ministry of Territorial Administration, with the radical there in the name of Atanganji, who is constantly threatening the whole nation, all of that, these are all machineries which are in the hand of the regime. You cannot go playing nice, playing the legal language or playing politics with these institutions. That's why he chose to say, let this victory be the victory for the people. It's the people's victory. If you are stealing this victory, it is the people's victory you are stealing. That's the language which he succeeded in instilling in the minds of Cameroonians, which has led the country to where it is today. People are mobilized. people are mobilized at the same time with a leader speaking the language that they want to hear. That's why we are in this current situation, which is extremely delicate.
So what you mean is that Cameroonians were expecting to have a sort of warrior to follow. Is that what you mean?
100%. When I hear people keep saying Cameroonians are very weak, Cameroonians they are not, they are so reluctant, they have no motivation, they have no courage. I keep telling people, I've always told people, Cameroonians haven't had the opportunity to show their real colors. The day Cameroonians will have a reason with a leader who is ready to lead them the way they want, the world will see Cameroonian scholars. And this is what we're experiencing. Cameroonians have what it takes to fight, but they need a leader to lead them. If they cannot find the fire in that leader, they don't see need, they don't see reason to even stand up and want to fight for something, because they know it's a loose battle. In Chiroma, people believe that there seems to be that fire that they need to follow. And that's where we are today.
Ok, donc en fait, on va dire donc une des raisons donc, du succès de Tirome, en tout cas dans la raison pour laquelle justement donc le vote en sa faveur a été une sorte de plébiscite finalement. Donc c'est en fait ses qualités de leadership. Donc d'une part, est-ce qu'on peut aussi dire que c'est ses qualités tactiques, c'est-à-dire en fait que par exemple c'est quelqu'un qui a réussi en fait, disons déjà à faire une alliance, par exemple avec donc l'Alliance pour le changement, c'est-à-dire qu'a dit finalement que bon ben il était ouvert pour une transition. Mais ce sur quoi j'aimerais aussi vous interroger, c'est surtout en fait cette sympathie qu'on a vue vis-à-vis de Tiroma dans ce que on appelle aujourd'hui l'Ambazonie, c'est-à-dire dans l'ancien Southern Cameroun. On a vu par exemple Agbo Bala faire meeting avec Tiroma. On a même vu certains leaders donc ambazonnés en diaspora clairement avoir plutôt des messages très sympathiques à son égard. Comment est-ce qu'on peut expliquer en fait que justement cette partie-là du Cameroun qui est en dissidence depuis maintenant 9 ans, comment est-ce qu'on peut expliquer en fait quelle est trouver, on va dire, en Tiroma, quelqu'un avec qui il y avait possibilité de renouer le dialogue, de renouer le contact?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question for your audience, because it's something which I do not know if it has been well communicated across Cameroon to understand the dynamics and exactly what is going on, especially with the Anglophone regions and the Chiroma syndrome, or the push for Chiroma. You are right. If there was one region which should reject Chiroma with a lot of energy, with so much passion, if there was one region that should reject Issa Chiroma, it would have been the two Anglophone regions, for reasons which I believe both of us know. We know both reasons. Why? Because there are things, there are languages, there are things that Chiroma did that people still believe led to the crisis intensifying. It hardened the government's position based on language that Chiroma used. So if there was one region that should have rejected Chiroma's candidacy, it would have been those two Anglophone regions. But what did we see? We saw a skilled politician, a skilled tactician, a technocrat, understanding the pain and the frustrations of these regions vis-a-vis the problems or his contribution to that conflict, stepping out in the open, raising his hands up, and telling these people, I am sorry for what I did. I did what I did because I was in a position, a governmental position, which required me to do what I did, and apologized to those people. Now, some may say that wasn't enough to forgive him. I'm coming. Let me just finish this one before I forget it. Okay. Some may say probably that apology wasn't enough to sway the entire region behind him the way they are saying it. But what people should understand is that this region has been in a conflict for 9 years. We're heading to the 9th year now, with a government that has shown no signs, no interest to resolve the conflict. Right. The options were, should we stick with this current government position? It was a referendum. I keep saying that this elections was it was really a referendum, because the basic question people from these two regions would have been asking themselves is, should we stick with this Paul Biya's regime that has for 9 years shown no signs of resolving the conflict, or try something different, even if he's a devil? So even if Chiroma was a devil that they hated, they believed that in Chiroma there was a possibility of reigniting a dialogue, a conversation that could lead to the conflict being resolved, because the position of the current government is already known. It's a hardcore position which has no leeway to resolve the conflict. So these two regions carried out a referendum between these two individuals. Even the Chiroma that we hate is a better option, which is why the results, I know we'll get into this results issue in the next conversation, but if you saw the results that came out from these two regions, it was not only insulting, it was a provocation, because they simply turned the results and declared something different. But we'll get in due course.
Yes, that's right. So that would be the next step, of course, when we come to the result of the election. Mais j'aimerais encore qu'on se focalise un petit peu justement sur les deux régions donc, qui forment en fait ce qu'on appelle aujourd'hui donc l'Ambazonie. Et il faut quand même aussi avouer que la posture justement donc, de Paul Biya a toujours été une posture très arrogante, très paternaliste vis-à-vis de ces régions. À savoir, c'est aussi lui quand même qui a déclaré la guerre sur ces deux régions, et en plus sur des motifs fallacieux. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a par exemple eu des explosions qui ont eu lieu dans une raffinerie à Douala, et c'est sur la base de ces explosions-là en fait qu'il va déclarer la guerre. Or, je veux dire, jusqu'à présent, on n'a pas vu par exemple d'attaque, disons, des Ambazoniens sur Douala par exemple, donc ce qui démontre véritablement qu'il y a eu toute une machination en fait pour justifier les faits de guerre et la déclaration donc de guerre. Et donc il y a peut-être que justement aussi le fait que Chiroma arrive dans une posture humble, ce que Biya n'a jamais eu, ne serait-ce qu'à travers ses discours à la nation, donc vis-à-vis de ces régions. Est-ce que ce n'est pas aussi ça, quelque part, l'explication? C'est que Chiroma, au moins, il s'est déplacé. Par exemple, depuis qu'il y a la guerre, Biya ne s'est jamais déplacé. Bon, il envoie, alors je ne sais même pas si c'est lui qui envoie le ministre, dans le premier ministre, le malheureux, je ne sais pas comment dire son malheureux premier ministre, voilà, qui est totalement impuissant. Et puis, bon, ben voilà, je ne pense même pas que les citoyens dans ces régions-là, à l'heure actuelle, lui font encore confiance. Voilà, c'est vraiment perdu pour lui. Et le fait que, justement, Chiroma se déplace, qu'il prononce des paroles quand même fortes, donc demander pardon et ainsi de suite, est-ce que ce n'est pas aussi, justement, une posture qui a aussi à contraster avec le silence, l'arrogance donc de Paul Biya et puis de ses ministres, justement?
Absolutely. You are absolutely spot on that, because again, as I said in my last statement or contribution, the fact that Chiroma humbled himself despite all the odds, despite the dangers that stood out there for him, the fact that Chiroma humbled himself, took himself to these regions and spoke directly to these people and told them, I am sorry for what I did, showed in him that human side, which this region hasn't seen from Paul Biya. People do not even know. I mean, when I say people, I mean people in these regions. They do not even know if Paul Biya understands what they're going through. From the day he declared the war, Paul Biya has never spoken to this region directly. He has made statements, general statements, in the context of the peace in the nation and all. He has never actually addressed the people from these regions or making them understand that he understands their pain and that he is doing what is necessary to resolve the conflict. Paul Biya, for these 8 to 9 years, has never done that. So if Chiroma, after all his own contributions to complicate the process, came out and said, I am sorry for what I did, it was a mistake, I was simply defending the government position as a government spokesperson, please forgive me. This carried a lot of weight. It carried a lot of power in it to the people. And this is why people decided, saying, we will give this man a chance even if he's the devil that we hate, we will give him a chance, because with him, we see some light at the end of the tunnel. It may not be what we want. It may not really be what we desire for, but there seems to be somebody here who is willing to have a conversation, who is willing to sit down for dialogue. Amongst the statements or the memorandum of understanding which Chiroma signed, there are some of these issues. The resolving of this conflict is one of those issues. He agreed to a transitional period, being a transitional president with the Union for Change, the alliance, which he engaged in. Some of the things which he signed and agreed to was accepting to resolve this conflict. That's creating a platform where every stakeholder, whether those on exile, those in prison, will be invited to sit down and address the issue. This carried so much weight, and it played well into the minds of the people from these regions, and that's why they were willing to give him that card, that opportunity to step in and see what they can do in resolving the conflicts. So he played his cards very well.
Okay, right. And I think that also it's really that he had this language of truth. So it's just to admit that the country is facing very, very big issues. C'est-à-dire que c'est véritablement ça, hein, c'est la situation. C'est que le Cameroun est dans dans un trou incommensurable, un trou profond. Et je pense que, vous allez un peu me dire ce que vous en pensez, mais je pense que le fait aussi d'admettre, justement, même à travers la transition, par exemple, que il faut tout remettre à plat, il faut refonder le pays, ce qui n'est pas forcément dans la logique du RDPC, parce que si le RDPC dit qu'il veut refonder le pays, ça voudrait dire en fait qu'ils sont en train de se désavouer, de se désavouer eux-mêmes. Donc, est-ce que ça aussi, ça n'a pas contribué à parler aux Camerounais? Parce que l'ensemble des Camerounais savent. On a par exemple vu récemment quand le Canada ouvrait les demandes de visa pour que les personnes qui sont qui ont des compétences puissent aller poursuivre leur cursus là-bas. On a vu des files et des files et des files de Camerounais aller s'aligner pour s'exiler au Canada, sans compter tous ceux qui vont prendre la route et puis ainsi de suite. Est-ce que justement ça, le fait de dire nous allons refonder, donc de reconnaître que le pays est dans des problèmes, ce n'est pas aussi un discours qui a suscité l'adhésion des électeurs?
Absolutely. I think that was a huge contributing factor. Cameroon is in a very delicate situation where the country is today. It is delicate. I do not know if we actually understand where the country is. It's in a very delicate and at a crossroad, a delicate position and at a crossroad, because there is a lot of latent frustration amongst young people. A huge population. We are talking here a country with over 68% of its population made up of people below the ages of 35. Right. 68%. And you are saying here a population that seems to be hopeless, because if you are not connected in Cameroon, or if you are not fortunate to be connected or know somebody who knows somebody, your future isn't really guaranteed. You really don't have a pathway. You are only struggling. You can have the degrees, you can have the diplomas that you need. You go to school, study. If you do not have those connections and the relationships that should lead you into something, you really don't have any future. That is the kind of a Cameroon that Paul Biya has constructed for young Cameroonians. Now, with all of this, and after all of these years, with promises that never come to reality, never come to fruition, young Cameroonians became extremely frustrated and were looking for that strike to ignite their frustration, to bring out the frustration in them, which is why it is quite disheartening when you listen to state officials today who are trying to counter the narrative of the uprising, the protest, and trying to paint it and give it the impression that those protesting are no-name individuals, they are rascals or drug addicts, and so the délinquants, as you say in French, the délinquants. Right, I don't know if that's the right word to use. Yes, exactly.
Yes, right.
This is the impression, the perception that the regime is trying to paint and give this protest or this uprising, forgetting to see the people's frustration, forgetting to see that a huge number of Cameroonians on the 12th of October voted for an alternative, voted for a different candidate.
Right.
Because the truth is, if Paul Biya won these elections, you and I think we are both quite knowledgeable of the Cameroon politics. If Paul Biya won these elections, he would not take 53%. I don't know if that makes sense.
Normally,
If
right.
Paul Biya won these elections, he would not be taking 53%.
Normally.
Taking 53% was telling the world that I got beaten very badly, but I need a small percentage to come out as victorious. Right. I was beaten, not just beaten very badly. Because that was the referendum that Cameroonians executed on the 12th of October. Young Cameroonians said, we have had enough. We want something different. Go and have your rest and allow this country to embark on a new journey. Unfortunately, they want to play the hardball and push Cameroonians into doing what is unthinkable or what they don't believe Cameroonians can do. That's why I keep repeating and emphasizing the country is at a crossroad, which if they are not very careful, what they're about to break loose there, they will not have enough water to quench it. The conflict we are seeing in the Northwest and the Southwest is the tip of an iceberg. If it breaks loose, if this regime plays what they're playing here, and it breaks loose in this part of the country, I pity Cameroon. Honestly, I'm sorry for Cameroon, because it will mark the beginning of the end of that country. That is the truth.
No, it's clearly that you are right on it. And it's very risky. Et peut-être je vais ramener ça en français parce qu'il faut aussi avouer que le régime Biya a beaucoup joué en fait sur des politiques de divide and rule pour fractionner en fait les Camerounais sur une base en fait tribaliste. Et donc forcément, en fractionnant les Camerounais sur une base tribaliste et puis en installant un discours tribaliste sur de longues années au niveau du pays et surtout en fait en observant, on va dire, l'hubris du pouvoir, c'est-à-dire en fait où on voit que des personnes de sa région, de ce qu'on appelle en règle générale dans la politique le socle granitique, manifestent une grande arrogance, un grand mépris vis-à-vis des autres. Ça, on l'a beaucoup observé en fait au niveau de la scène politique. Donc, il est clair que dans un schéma pareil, le risque en fait de dissolution du pays, il est réel. On ne peut pas du tout l'exclure. Eric Kacha, so we don't make a suspense anymore. Hein? Who won the presidential election in 2015 in Cameroon?
If you want me to give a non-political answer,
yes.
Chiroma won. If you want me to give a political answer, well, the Constitutional Council declared Paul Biya as the winner.
Yeah.
Because, again, when people are going in for a referendum, which was the case in Cameroon on October 12th, they are going in because there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of disappointment. And when a majority of the people feel frustrated and they're going in to vote for a referendum, the results are very obvious. We saw the result. I went through thousands and thousands of polling station reports because I was part of the Project C. It's a diaspora initiative that was compiling some of those reports in real time and sharing them. This is why the international community is embarrassed, because most of these individuals, most of these people, like the Financial Times, I gave them access. I gave them a link to go in and verify these results. Right. What I am telling you in this interview, this is what I was telling the Financial Times, what I am telling you is not fabricated. I'm not fabricating what I'm telling you here. This is a link. Follow this link. You will see original polling station reports that are contrary to what the Constitutional Council is reading. This is not magic. This is not rocket science. Compare these two, and then you know what is going on. They feel embarrassed to see what is going on because what the Constitutional Council has done there is put themselves in a very delicate position as well. I mean, the Constitutional Council. Because if you, as an institution, stood there as the highest authority when it comes to declaring or determining who is the winner of an election, and you turn to play the card of a regime, and you turn to put your credibility at stake, you are simply telling the people that you are no longer in the position to decide for them. Because do not forget, the Constitutional Council, though it may in Constitution be that highest authority, the real authority is the people. The power is with the people. The people are sovereign. The institutions are below the people. As individual citizens, the Constitution is above us, or the institutions are above us. But as a people, we are sovereign. If the people believe that the Constitutional Council has lost its credibility, they will simply request for that power to return to them. And this is what Cameroonians are doing. They are taking back the powers that all those institutions had, because they are no longer credible. They are no longer there to defend their interest. So the people are standing up and saying that we are sovereign and we are going to stand and defend what is ours, whether you like it or not.
Oui, est-ce que justement ce n'est même pas ça l'une des grandes en fait victoires de cette élection? Parce que ce qui peut aussi expliquer justement le contexte de crise post-électorale, c'est en fait que déjà je m'étais fait l'observation que disons le régime Biya a en fait détruit la société civile camerounaise, principalement. C'est-à-dire qu'il n'y a pas en fait une société politique, on va dire, courtoise, qui se développe. Voilà. Il n'y a que dans les plateaux de télé, en fait, qu'on voit ça, mais sinon, il n'y a pas de société politique, en fait, courtoise. Voilà. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a une brutalité, en fait. Par exemple, les partis ne peuvent même pas organiser de meetings en temps normal, et ainsi de suite. Il n'y a que pendant les 3 semaines de période électorale qu'ils peuvent faire quelque chose. Donc, il y a déjà ça. Plein d'associations, par exemple, de la société civile ont été détruites. On se souvient, par exemple, justement, vous avez parlé tout à l'heure du ministre de l'administration territoriale pour la Tangandji, qui a en fait qui avait accusé certaines associations comme le REDAC et ainsi de suite d'être à la base de blanchiment d'argent, ainsi de suite. Donc et puis justement des associations de défense des droits humains, puis ainsi de suite. Donc il y a une destruction de la société civile et de façon très paradoxale, les Camerounais ont fait un sursaut extraordinaire en se disant mais cette élection-là en fait nous allons la surveiller, nous allons nous assurer en fait que le résultat du vote va refléter nos aspirations, ce que nous avons déposé dans le scrutin. Est-ce que ça on peut pas dire que justement hein, ces Camerounais dont on pensait qu'ils étaient amorphes et puis qu'ils n'étaient capables de rien faire, est-ce que là on peut pas dire en fait que c'est le début finalement de la victoire en fait des Camerounais là à ce moment-là, c'est-à-dire que avec cet engagement citoyen de s'investir dans le processus de monitoring du vote?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if you look at before the elections, this whole, should I say, division, trying to suppress the civil society, trying to suppress whatever action, whatever contribution that organizations within the country could contribute towards elections had already started. The threats, as you rightly mentioned there, the threats on Red Hat, we saw how they went and sealed the office of Red Hat from Metro Madame Aliscom with Maximilian. They sealed the office, accused them of money laundering, which until this day, we haven't heard anything about the charges. And many other organizations, the one from the DISO, which was being a platform which was being put together to monitor civic, it was civic activity, which is allowed within any country to monitor elections at the polling stations. There was nothing illegal here, but they went after these organizations with the hammers, trying to smash them and suppress them because they believe that if they didn't do that, they were going to be exposed. But thankfully, there was a good network of organizations. So it wasn't just this or doing that. You had a Project C. You had a few other organizations doing what they were trying to suppress those in Cameroon from doing, which is why at the end of the day, today, the whole world can see the real, valid, original polling stations reports available online all over the place because they have tried preventing the civil society from playing the role of observers, which is allowed within the Constitution, simply because they knew that should they allow that to happen, they will be exposed. They want to rely on their own observers, the ELECAM officials that we saw in many, many polling stations, stuffing envelopes, putting ballot papers in envelopes and stuffing ballot boxes. That is the job that the regime wanted the only official observers to do. And they didn't want any other observers within their stations. But unfortunately, that didn't work, because with the effort of Cameroonians, with the effort of determined Cameroonians, they were able to be present in the major key stations to observe and make those reports and release those reports in real time. When you hear the argument from some ministers claiming that there is no way Issa Chiroma can claim to have won the elections by just relying on a few divisions, mathematically, that's nonsense. Right. Because not every division has the same weight. You can pick a few key divisions, tally their results, and determine who has won these elections without going into every subdivisions to get the results, because they are all of different weights. Right. So the few divisions that Issa Chiroma was able to tally up and publish gave him the overwhelming results to confirm that he won. Right. So whatever argument any minister is using to counter that narrative is nonsense.
Right. You are absolutely clear. Let's say, for example, yesterday, so I did a live where I tried to explain it. So if you take, let's say, for example, the region, so we have 10 regions in Cameroon, and you take, let's say, the voting population by region, then you can see that, for example, the electoral weight of 5 regions only is about 71%. You see, so you have those regions. So if you take, for example, region littoral, so you see, for example, you take the north, the extreme north, you take the north, you take centre and west, for example. And we all know that in all those regions, let's say, except in centre where it was mitigated, but in all the rest of the 4 regions, Issa Chiroma won. So normally the projection is very, very fair, and it's just a question of statistics. So it's not really a matter of having every detail regarding the polling station. So it's clear that
absolutely right,
absolutely nonsense.
Absolutely.
Right. And yes, and it's clear, but we will not discuss, of course, about the organization of the election itself, because I think that we already noticed that it was very weak, and that if the new government come in place, so a government, of course, designated by Issa Chiroma, this government should restart everything from new concerning the organization of the election. So, Eric Kacha, if I understood you correctly, it's clear that the post-election crisis come up from the fact that Cameroonians went to vote, they monitored the vote, they did everything to compile the result, and then they start to see that the officials were not reflecting what they voted. Is that the beginning of the post-election crisis in Cameroon? So this temptation or these actions made by officials to revert to fraud, simply. So the vote of Cameroonians.
Absolutely. I think just before the elections, or before the results were being pronounced, a posting saying, should there be any post-election crisis in Cameroon, the regime in place and the ELECAM should be held accountable, because they are the ones that will provoke a situation that could lead to post-election crisis. When I made that statement, I didn't know the magnitude of fraud that was being prepared. I didn't know the magnitude or the size of the fraud that the regime was orchestrating. But what was evident at the time was that should those results be falsified, Cameroonians were going to stand up to challenge them. Challenge them because this is the first time in the history of Cameroon that parallel tabulation was going on by citizens, by a network of citizens well educated with the necessary tools and platforms to tally results, compile them in real time, and share to Cameroonians. This is the first time we're saying this. And thanks also to the social media. In 1992, there was no social media. We only relied on the CRTV, the main communication platform, which was controlled by the government, and the radio houses that were controlled by the government. Meaning, whatever language, whatever thing that came out from there, it is what the government position is. It was a government narrative. Fast forward to 2025, every Cameroonian is a journalist through the social media. Every Cameroonian is an activist. Now, when the right tools were put into place to compile those results and share them, Cameroonians were disseminating the information at the speed of light, meaning within a few seconds that a PV became available from Fundi or from Baturi or from Betua. Within a few minutes, the whole nation was seeing it in real life. People were seeing them on the Android phones. Everyone was seeing the results. It wasn't a case for the radio stations or the CRTV to do everything in darkness and then come and declare that this is what we've received from Elecam and this is what the results are. No. Cameroonians were seeing the real results and seeing how the fraud was being orchestrated in real time. And this only pushed that anger. It pushed that frustration. It told Cameroonians this regime is arrogant. The share of arrogance is unacceptable. We cannot take it any longer. And that is why we are in this situation today. That is why you see the young people out there doing what they are doing. Unfortunately, it's leading to some destruction. This is not what anybody wished for. But those responsible for this crisis should not be mistaken. Those who should be held accountable are known, and these are the officials, the elected officials, and the regime top individuals who are out there provoking people, provoking the population, provoking people who know what they voted for. It's very disheartening to know that you left in the morning police station, casted your vote, stood at that police station, they counted the results, you took out your phone, made a picture of the results, knowing, oh, I know my results. Went home, to be told a few days after that what you have in your phone as the results are not the real results. That what is the real result is what Elecam has sent to the Constitutional Council. This is frustrating, and this is where, or it is a source of the frustration in Cameroonians today. Let nobody say otherwise. Let nobody give a different narrative that they are drug dealers or children on the street that don't know what they are doing. No. And I think for those who are actually coordinating this protest and the actions, they need to be the face of the protest, meaning that Cameroonians of all walks of life who stood out and voted on the 12th of October need to stand out there. It shouldn't just be a matter of the young people or the young lads running the street. No, people of all walks of life should stand out there saying the elections that were declared is not what we voted for. These are not the results in my phone from my polling station. What you've declared there is not what I have on my phone, because I voted, I made a picture of the final results. They are different from what you are declaring. Therefore, something isn't right. That needs to be corrected. That's where the frustration is.
Of course. And what we can also see that it's nationwide frustration, nationwide, because in every places in the country, I never experienced that before. And even when people thought about what's happened in 1992, so I never heard that in every places people were protesting. And I was very surprised that to see, for example, that in the East, so East was commonly presented as a part of the Socle granitique, and it was very surprising that in Baturi, in Bertois, so people were protesting. So it's something very, very exceptional that is going on. Et je pense, hein, comme vous l'avez dit en fait avant, il y a vraiment une combinaison de facteurs, on va dire. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a vraiment l'exaspération des Camerounais. C'est que les Camerounais avaient envie, ils ont envie de tourner la page du régime Biya. Ça, c'est vraiment évident, c'est clair. Le deuxième élément aussi, ben, c'est ils ont trouvé un leader dont ils ont senti que ben, ce leader-là, en fait, était en mesure de pouvoir mener le combat, donc ce qui a encore renforcé les choses. Et l'autre élément aussi, et qui est vraiment très, très intéressant, c'est que les aspirations des Camerounais ne s'est pas transformées en abattement, mais ils ont transformé ça en action pour surveiller, pour documenter, et ainsi de suite. Donc, ce qui fait que il y a suffisamment en fait d'évidence pour contrecarrer en fait tout le narratif qui est produit au niveau du RDPC. Donc là, nous avons donc eu des manifestations pacifiques. Hein. Donc il y a eu des manifestations pacifiques qui ont eu lieu. Il y a à l'heure actuelle énormément d'arrestations aux faciès. Il faut vraiment le dire, c'est-à-dire que dans Northern Citizens, so people identified as Northern Citizens, so the same as they did in 2018. So they are right now arrested. I saw that also some family members of Issa Chiruma were also arrested. So if you add that, there were also a lot of killings. And there are some, let's say, some hypotheses saying that most of the destructions and the burnings were not due to protesters, but to, let's say, some organization more or less linked to, let's say, we cannot even say the power. It's really what we can say le cœur du pouvoir, c'est-à-dire the ethnical center of the power. You see, so what they call a gang, something like that. So it's really the heart of that power that is putting in place so some organization, parallel organization, even in the army or in the civil society. So, and they are apparently those who are trying to destroy. And what can, let's say, lead us to believe, or let's say to trust this explanation is that we also saw that the tribalist discourse where they try to reinstate it, you see, to instill it into the society, and this doesn't work. And this is also, I think, one of the main victory. I don't know if in your analysis you came up also with the same conclusion, but for the first time, I see a unity, very strong unity among Cameroonians who don't want to be divided by tribalist discourse and things like that. So what do you think about also this victory of Cameroonian people who are still focused on their main goal, which is to turn the page of the Biya regime and to, of course, tackle this tribalist rhetoric that is that they are trying to put in place?
Yeah, Timba, I think let me highlight something here. You've touched on something which is good to know. It's good for those who are on the field and who may be anticipating more action. Don't take the allegations or the suspicion of that there are alternative organizations within the protest group that are causing havoc. Don't dismiss that suspicion, because if you, with my knowledge, you may not be aware, but with my knowledge and having analyzed a lot of what was going on in these Anglophone regions throughout these 8 years of conflict, what Cameroonians may not, or some do know it, but they do not know the extent to which the regime is capable of creating a counter force to tarnish the image of legitimate concerns. In every situation like now, and this is what Cameroonians must be very, very cautious about. It's only beginning, it's only starting. Those alternative groups created by the regime to tarnish the image of legitimate concerns will exist. Meaning a protest could be going on. I'm not dismissing everything. When I saw what happened in New Bell with the Konji Kam and I'm not dismissing that all of it was all about these groups. But the instigators, the initial instigators of looting, could be elements planted within the protest group to create that atmosphere. So join this group for protest, but when we approach this place, you guys go in here, start looting. Because as humans, as young people, on an uncontrolled crowd, when they start looting, everyone follows the crowd. But those who actually ignite or start that action, don't be surprised, are well orchestrated or well planned individuals planted within the protest groups. And this is why they should be extremely careful when they are going out there to protest. The regime is capable of doing anything possible to tarnish and destroy the image of the protest. That's one thing they should take care of. The second aspect, that of unifying the language, disregarding talks of tribalism or trying to split, that's how the regime has succeeded so far. So far, the BS regime's biggest asset or their biggest success in Cameroon has been to tribalize the entire nation. Because with tribalism, they triumph. When they divide the people, divide the discourse, and make it tribalistic, we remain divided. The country remains divided. Nobody then sees Issa Chiroma as a leader who means change for Cameroon. They will tag him saying Northeast, even the North. It's a Northerners issue. And if you look at the initial list of people arrested, that first list from Douala, from Littoral, if you look at that list and look at the names that were added to that list, if you compare it, you see a majority of those names were names from the North. They were the Mohammed, the Ayatu, all names sounding like those from the North, from within New Bell or Littoral. That was trying to give the perception to Cameroonians that, listen, what you are seeing here in Douala is not being done or orchestrated by people from Douala, the indigents. It's being orchestrated by Northerners resident in Douala. This was the misperception and the mentality which they were trying to instill into the hearts of Cameroonians. Divide it, segregate Chiroma, and alienate him just to the north. That way they will conquer. But unfortunately, that is not happening. Because when you cross and went to Bafang, when you went to Chang, when you went to Kambe, when you went to Limbe, when you went to Betua, when you went to the southern regions, it was all the same story. So the issue of dividing Cameroonians may not be working because Cameroonians want to turn the page. They are at a point where they want to turn a page. So no amount of mechanization to divide and conquer is working. And I really hope that Cameroonians stick to this line and know that this struggle, this fight is about Cameroon. It's not about Chiroma. It's not about Northerners. It's not about whoever. It is about freeing Cameroon from the hands of a few individuals who are trying to perpetuate their stay in power for another 20, 40 years. This is very important for your audience. What is happening in Cameroon now? You should listen very carefully. What is happening in Cameroon now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It may take another 40 years, 30, 40 years to find Cameroon at this stage. If they should miss this opportunity, they should prepare themselves for another 30, 40 years because it takes generations. It takes decades in every political journey or history for a country to arrive or get ripe for a revolution. If you miss that revolution, the regime turns around and destroys everything. Because what will happen should this regime succeed in staying in power is that they will make sure every attempt or any aspect that led to this situation is crushed. We saw that happening after 1984. which they retaliated. In 1992, when Frundi won Pobia, it had taken him unaware. There was no architecture for fraud in place. That's why they couldn't do it. But once they got defeated, they turned around and did everything possible to make sure that no opposition leader ever comes close to Pobia in elections. So if this opportunity is missed now, that country should prepare for another 20, 30, 40 years of suffering. Unfortunately.
Oui, je pense que c'est un constat qui est clair. Hein. C'est-à-dire que ce n'est pas demain la veille que les peuples en fait se réveillent de cette façon-là. Et peut-être juste pour revenir légèrement en arrière, avant qu'on puisse un peu discuter des différentes solutions en fait, hein, donc de qu'est-ce qui en fait est possible à l'heure actuelle. Donc, ce qui est sûr et certain, c'est que, par exemple, moi, c'est en étudiant un peu la guerre contre-révolutionnaire hein, qui avait été faite par la France avec ses supplétifs camerounais contre l'UPC, en fait, que justement, j'ai en fait compris les méthodes, on va dire, de faux maquis, par exemple, c'est-à-dire de créer en fait des faux mouvements qui étaient présentés comme étant les mouvements, on va dire, indépendantistes et de discréditer en fait toute leur démarche. Et donc, et c'est vraiment ça en fait qui est hallucinant, c'est en fait que c'est vraiment un régime qui manque d'imagination. Et je pense que même le fait que Bias fossilise au pouvoir, en fait, ça démontre aussi ce manque même d'imagination, parce qu'en fait, c'est les mêmes méthodes sur lesquelles il fonctionne toujours. Donc, il les recycle en fait tout le temps. Donc, vraiment, les méthodes contre-révolutionnaires. Et un des aspects de cette méthode, justement, au niveau du discours, en fait, c'est la tribalisation. Donc, mettons que sans épreuve de force, donc c'est juste au discours tribal en fait que ça s'applique, donc comme on l'a vu en 2018, ainsi de suite, avec les mêmes mécanismes. Et ce qui est très intéressant, c'est qu'on libère des prisonniers du MRC et puis on met les nordistes en prison. Voilà, c'est très intéressant d'observer. Donc, et voilà. Et donc, ce qui fait que justement, au moment où il y a eu le début des protestations, hein, dont des avocats, des enseignants au niveau dans des régions nord-ouest, sud-ouest et ainsi de suite, l'attitude en fait donc du gouvernement, comme je disais, l'une des raisons, c'est un faux attentat à Douala qui en fait causé après la guerre. Donc ça se voyait déjà cette manipulation, et puis après on l'a vu à travers d'autres cas aussi, où clairement en fait pour désolidariser justement les Camerounais, pour empêcher en fait que mettons les francophones ne soient nés de la sympathie vis-à-vis des anglophones, en fait ils ont vraiment fait cette scission-là avec ces groupes infiltrés ou alors ces groupes qu'ils contrôlaient pour ternir l'image. Par exemple, on l'a vu avec le cas Ayafor, par exemple, hein, dont tout le monde se souvient encore aujourd'hui. Voilà, donc vraiment pour ternir et puis désolidariser en fait le reste de la nation. Voilà. Et ce qui est justement aussi une bonne nouvelle de ce scrutin, si c'est de voir en fait que, so I can maybe say that in English, is that one of the good news of this election is to see that there is a sort of un rapprochement comme ça entre anglophones et francophones. So it's something very, very interesting to observe. I don't know what you think about it, but it's one of the good, the positive effect of this election is that we really see that, okay, our brothers, let's say from over the Mungo, so we are coming up together again. So it's something very interesting.
It is indeed, and I'm happy you've brought this up. It's something very good for your audience to understand, because it is not a coincidence. It is not this gradual, should I say, harmonization of positions or trying to see things through the same prism is gradually coming up. It's not a coincidence, because for many years today, there was this frustration amongst many English Cameroonians that believe that the other side of Cameroon, the Francophone side of the Cameroon, wasn't understanding the pain that they were going through and the need to change this diabolical regime. Despite all what they saw the regime doing to them, they thought the Francophones were indifferent to their sufferings. And this nested a lot of pain and anger amongst Cameroonians, because what the Anglophones have always, in addition to their demands, their political demands, what many of them who are fighters for years and many, many years has been to see this regime changed. That was the fundamental aspect. Now, if other demands came in, it was due to the approach or the response which they were getting from that regime or the other partners that they believe should have been in this struggle. So for the years that they believed that Francophones or the other brothers on the other side were not showing enough energy or enough signs that they are willing already to jointly put forces together and bring a positive change to Cameroon was very frustrating. If out of a sudden they are saying, that tells you what Anglophone man is, they are saying that for once, these brothers want to be serious again. They want to be serious with business. They want to see Cameroon doing well. They want to see a positive change in Cameroon. By default, they start seeing a reason to start having these conversations towards that ultimate objective. And that's why you're gradually seeing that relationship is difficult. I must be honest with you. It's extremely difficult, given what has been going. It's difficult, but it's gradually building up.
Right.
It's taking time to mend, and with the core objective that this regime needs to be changed. And if the Francophone brothers are willing and ready to see that change happen, we will join you to make it happen. But as long as you are contented, as long as you are happy, I'm speaking in the third person singular, not me, the third person singular. So as long as you are happy with your current suffering, your current position, then allow me to sort myself out without you. But if you are willing to change your position and improve your condition, I am willing to join you, and together we will fight that fight and free ourselves. Because, as I said at the very beginning, the ultimate aim is to see a regime or a government that is willing to address the legitimate grievances of the Anglophones. This is what a true Anglophone wants. Someone who is or has the intention to sit down and have a dialogue, a conversation to address the legitimate, I'm emphasizing the word legitimate, concerns of the Anglophone within the Cameroon picture. Anglophone Cameroonians will support that individual. And that's why you are seeing that build up towards supporting the efforts to oust this regime. The Anglophones are prepared for that. They are showing those signs that we are willing to engage and free Cameroon from this tyranny.
Right.
And the people around the Anglophones, around Paul Biya, who have a lot to lose, will do the alternative, like the Paul Atanganji. He has a lot to lose. He knows he's a criminal. He knows he has no place in a free Cameroun. C'est pour ça qu'il est en train de faire tout ce qu'il fait là, pour que le régime se reste en place. He knows that without this regime in place, he has no place in Cameroon.
Right.
He is ready to kill. He will kill just to maintain this regime. People should understand that.
No, it's very important, and I think that most of the Cameroonians already understood it. I think it's something very clear, and that with this kind of person, it's really rapport de force. So is that we really have to show him that we are not children.
Joking, correct?
Of course. So it's
That's
clear.
right.
So I think that people understood it. So Eric Kacha, on va un peu essayer de regarder maintenant les solutions, disons, pour sortir en fait de cette crise post-électorale. Donc, on a un peu établi que véritablement, nous sommes dans une situation historique très, très rare dans la vie d'un pays. Ça, c'est clair. Ça veut dire en fait que le management d'une situation pareille est délicate et que si le leadership en fait est défaillant, ben, il faudra encore beaucoup d'années pour pouvoir recréer une situation d'une telle intensité, en fait, avec les promesses que cela peut porter. Donc là, nous avons un contexte particulier. Les Camerounais sont sortis en masse pour défendre leur vote. Il y a eu beaucoup d'arrestations. Il y a eu des personnes qui ont été tuées. Mais malgré cela, demain, par exemple, donc le 3 novembre, les villes mortes vont commencer. Et autre chose qui se produit déjà, c'est que nous avons à peu près 8 régions qui sont pro, on peut dire ça comme ça, un pro-Tiroma. C'est-à-dire que si on regarde la carte des protestations, on voit rapidement que bon, ben, il y a 8 régions, sauf le sud, où on n'a pas observé de protestation, malgré les résultats du vote, hein, où on a quand même vu une percée de Tiroma. Et puis aussi au niveau du centre, on a eu quelques échauffourées à Yaoundé, mais on sait aussi très bien qu'au niveau des votes aussi, il y a eu des percées donc de Tiroma aussi au niveau du centre. Donc, on comprend aussi très bien que la militarisation de ces régions-là fait à ce que, pour ceux qui s'y trouvent, c'est très délicat, en fait, de pouvoir manifester. Why not? Mais on a 8 régions acquises. Maintenant, donc, il y a encore un autre facteur maintenant à prendre en compte, c'est une partie de l'armée. C'est-à-dire que nous avons appris très récemment que, parce qu'on savait que Isha Tirom a été menacé d'une arrestation, des snipers qui étaient installés donc, dans une résidence voisine de la sienne. Et là, nous apprenons donc que une partie de l'armée, dite loyaliste, s'est rangée derrière lui et qu'il est protégé par elle. Donc, nous sommes là devant une situation absolument inédite qui ne s'est pas produite en 2018 avec Maurice Kamto, dont je me souviens qu'il avait été séquestré pendant, je ne sais pas, 40, 50 jours sans que personne ne bouge, quoi que ce soit à Yaoundé. Et là, on a une situation inédite. Et donc là, quels sont les différents en fait, scénarios qui peuvent être, mettons scénarios, qui peuvent être abordés en sachant en fait que, ben, comme on l'a déjà établi, pour différents acteurs, que ce soit pour Paul Biya lui-même ou bien pour ceux qui l'entourent, ils n'ont aucune raison de laisser le pouvoir. Aucune raison. Donc, c'est-à-dire que de s'attendre à ce que de façon d'agir comme des gentlemen, par exemple, et tout, il n'y a rien de possible à ce niveau-là. Donc, on a une ligne dure qui est installée. On a une ligne dure qui a montré qu'elle est prête à aller jusqu'à organiser un certain type de destruction pour pouvoir radicaliser la situation. C'est-à-dire que de se donner en fait une raison finalement d'employer une violence extrême. Les Camerounais ont réussi quand même à tacler ça. Par exemple, les villes mortes, c'est un moyen pour tacler ça en réalité. De montrer que okay, vous avez voulu radicaliser la situation, mais on va vous calmer en restant à la maison. Donc, c'est très stratégique, c'est un très beau mouvement. Mais j'aimerais justement voir avec vous quelles sont les possibilités de sortie de crise, c'est-à-dire sortie de crise dans le sens de chasser le régime Biya, mais avec le moins de dégâts possible sur la société. Déjà, est-ce que c'est même envisageable? Voilà.
Yes, it's possible. It's very possible, Timber. It's possible. We've seen that happen in other countries. Cameroon shouldn't be different. Before I get into that aspect, let me quickly take us back into highlighting how special or how delicate the current situation is. I know earlier I did try to compare the current situation to what happened in 1992, post the elections where Fundi won. I said, since then, I would not want to count on the 2018. It was a bit different. So the scenario which we're facing today could only be comparable to the 1992 situation. But even worse and more delicate, what we're facing here is in 1992, we didn't quite see the possibility or signs of the military or element of the military swaying towards Frundi,
right,
or speaking a language which could be favorable or which would be interpreted as being favorable to supporting or alienating with Frundi. Where maybe we didn't get into a situation where it was operational, but at the early stages, there were no signs that there were factions within the military that were thinking differently. Today, as we speak, I haven't had a chance, maybe you can confirm to me, but I haven't had a chance to look at the polling station results from the Quartier General.
Yes.
There have been rumors. There have been rumors that even within the Quartier General, there was a huge support there for Chiroma. This was a message. It was already a message, subtle message being sent. If within the Quartier General, you have a huge support there that voted for Chiroma, that should be saying something. Now, let's go back to Garoua. Over the last few days, we heard the tension, as you rightly said. There were snipers on the property adjacent to his home, shooting on the crowd in front of his house. You had the military people surrounding the whole area there where his residence is. Garoua was being militarized. And then, fast forward to 2 days ago, Chiroma sends a message telling the public that loyal officers or military people have taken him away from his home to a safe location. Excuse me. This should keep Yaoundé awake all night. This should keep Yaoundé awake and sleepless. They should be having sleepless nights. The regime should be having sleepless nights, because how is it even possible if Chiroma hasn't got a solid support from top military officials, not young or low-level officers? It only required officers at the highest level to have been able to approach his residence, get him safely, and go through all the layers of security that were there to protect him, because there was rumors he wants to be arrested, meaning the whole area would have been militarized. Right. So for a military group, or I don't know, officers as he calls them, to have successfully taken him out from his residence safely to a safe location tells you that there is a huge group out there, or a strong group out there, that is capable of overshadowing whoever was trying to arrest Chiroma in Garoua.
Right.
Because he wasn't taken out by civilians. He would have been taken out by a military contingent to wherever he is. We don't know where he is. This alone is enough to keep Yaoundé awake all night. They should be worried, because the message is strong as you can describe it.
Right.
And this is why I can tell you the world is observing. When was the last time that Paul Biya organized elections and it took countries a week or many days to even congratulate him? It used to happen on the next day after the declaration, after the Constitutional Council declares him winner. Those letters started flowing in randomly. But this time around, seeing what Cameroonians are up to, seeing how Cameroonians are determined to protect their vote, the world is observing. They are taking their time to decide on whether or not to even send those letters. Many of them know that Paul Biya did not win. They knew in the past that he wasn't winning the elections. But what they were not seeing was the determination from Cameroonians to counter the narrative, to counter the fraud. This time the world is seeing Cameroonians willing and ready, standing up and saying enough is enough. And if they are saying this, they are taking the time to monitor and to see how far can Cameroonians go. How fluid is the situation? Should we even rush to congratulate Paul Biya, knowing that tomorrow things could change? All this thinking is going through their mind, and that's why you see major countries, EU countries, taking their time to even respond. I know Russia issued a communique congratulating Paul Biya. I mean, that's one major country that has done with Algeria. Other than these ones, all the letters the presidency has been publishing are letters from mushroom countries within the country. the FDC, the, I don't know, Cabral Libri, or so they've reverted to publishing letters from insignificant political parties within the country to legitimize, to show signs of legitimacy or credibility, because those letters from the international community are not coming in. People are saying that you lost these elections. You are trying to steal an elections. But are Cameroonians ready? Are they willing? Are they determined to stop this from happening? If they see those signs happening, they will hold back those letters. They will not send those letters. And this is a strong message that Cameroonians should get. Yes, VMOs, there are pro and cons of going down this route of a VMO. But if you look rationally and try to understand why Issa Chiroma declared this VMO from tomorrow till the 5th, you would see with him, because it was getting radical, or the regime was trying to radicalize the protest. And the only way to counter that radicalization is declare VMO. Nobody's going out. How then do you radicalize the people? They are the ones now going out intimidating people to open their businesses. I saw a deal threatening people in Betua and telling them, if you don't open your businesses, I'll come and seal them. Someone in Kamyabasi was threatening people, the military forcing, it's my business. If I don't want to open it, leave me alone. You've said there are radicals going around destroying businesses. I am deciding to close my business. Let me protect my business. What's your business in my business? But seeing the sign, they're seeing the enormity of shutting down Douala, Yaoundé, Garoua, Maroua, and Gaoundéré for 3 days. If these cities are shut down for 3 days, I can guarantee you Yaoundé will feel the pinch. They will feel the heat.
So, but what can we forecast right now? Because we already noticed that the actor, let's say the government, is in the hard line, already manifest this hard line. So we saw that, for example, starting from the beginning of the process, and we already discussed that from the beginning. So, for example, they refused any internal discussion among the party, so the CPDM. So meaning that even right now, let's say the core group, having the power, will want to keep it. So this is a scenario that is very clear. So what can we expect? We also read from Issa Chiroma that some ministers congratulated him. So something that was also very, very surprising to read and to hear. So what can we expect? Can we expect that some of the government members will desolidarize? So you see, they will move out from the government. So what can we expect in the coming days right now? So to really have, let's say, the less painful resolution of this crisis.
Sorry, I didn't quite elaborate or go far enough to answer this question, because this was part of the initial question. I think where the country is, there are a few options, there are a few possibilities, possible scenarios. If and mostly would depend on how Cameroonians decide, because at this point, those to decide the future of Cameroon are Cameroonians. It is the people, the sovereign. The power is back with the people. How the people use this power will determine the future of Cameroon. It will determine the possibilities, the options. Where we are now, nobody knows what Issa Chiroma is planning. Nobody knows clearly, okay, he's declared the VMOs. They will have an impact, an enormous impact on activities. This regime is one that doesn't care about Cameroonians. So if you declare VMOs for a month and people are suffering, as long as Yaoundé is breathing, the regime doesn't care. The rest of the country can die. But if Yaoundé suffocates or starts suffocating from a VMO, then it will have an impact. But if the VMO doesn't affect Yaoundé enough, it will have no impact, because no result will happen. But now, After the Vilmore, what happens next? Should Issa Shiroma, from what I am gathering, from what we all are hearing, we do not know. But if Issa Shiroma, who is the rightly elected leader, I'm emphasizing, he is the rightly elected leader by the people. If by some means he is still in Cameroon and decides to take oath of office parallel to Paul Biya, then the country could be in a constitutional crisis.
Right.
Because if Issa Chiroma, with all his legal backing, with all the evidence that shows he won the elections, even if the institution that is there to declare the winner declared an alternative winner, contrary to the people's decision, if Issa Chiroma that the people choose decides to take oath and make himself the leader and nominate an alternative government, appoint his ministers, appoint his ambassadors to take charge of embassies across the world. Remember, almost 90% of the diaspora voted for Issa Chiroma.
Except Russia, right?
Except Russia. Well, except Russia. Except Russia. Maybe that's what gives it the 10%. I said, 90%.
Maybe.
So a huge majority of Cameroonians in the diaspora voted for Issa Chiroma. Ambassadors are out here for diplomatic missions and also to cater for the needs of Cameroonians. If those Cameroonians out here rejected a government and said they want a new government, Issa Chiroma goes ahead, nominates his government, appoint ambassadors, and give raison d'etre for Cameroonians in the diaspora to storm embassies and tell the host nations that we are coming here to install new ambassadors that have been appointed by a legitimate leader that we recognize. It will create crisis. Host countries will be in serious crisis. That's one scenario. If he doesn't go down that route, he decides to go with more protest of bringing people out on the streets, multiplying the size of those protests. It will ground activities. It will become impossible for Paul Biya to govern or for the regime to govern. The country becomes ungovernable because we are talking here with two regions that are already in serious conflict that the regime cannot control. Don't mind the stories being shared or the impression that things are okay in the northwest and the southwest. They are lies. Military troops are being killed every day.
Yes.
They cannot govern those territories. Mondays for 9 years today. Every single Monday for 9 years today is a holiday in these regions. And you're telling me you're in control? You're not. So these two regions are already cut off. They're in fire. Go into the far north. You have the Boko Haram crisis, which is causing havoc up there. So should the north and Adamawa fall into crisis again, Douala joins into crisis, Betua joins into crisis, Bafusam joins into crisis, the country, the regime has no country to govern. So there will be chaos that will lead them to either reconcile position, either cancel those elections and reorganize them, or force out of power. If the people get the ultimate power to march onto a 2D or onto the central province and say, we have had enough, we are out here to reclaim our power, the popular action will lead Paul Biya and his cronies to vacate the power. Another possible scenario, this is the worst scenario. Let's pray it doesn't happen. Another possible scenario which we should not ignore is that of the military stepping in. There is a possible scenario. We know the military is a coup.
But that may end up into a civil war.
Yes, all what is happening here, if you've read international politics and politics of Africa and the coup d'etat, if you see all what is happening in Cameroon, they're all the ingredients. They're all the ingredients that prepares a country for a coup. Every sign, every ingredient that leads to a coup d'etat is in Cameroon today. We are seeing it. The weakening of institutions, the illegitimacy of a leader, the credibility of institutions being lost. So
But
nobody
that will
believes.
not be, but that will not be a coup backed by people.
No, this is
No,
a
of
military
course.
coup. This I'm saying it will be a
Yeah,
military
of
coup
course.
here.
Yeah.
But which is why I'm saying that people shouldn't overlook this scenario, because if the military, now the question could be which of the militaries, because we know the military is divided. If the military loyal to Pobia and the center of power realize that the civil power, which is the Pobia and its gang, if they see that they are losing legitimacy due to the people's uprising and their actions, they can decide to quickly seize power to maintain some of what they want to protect. That's still the bias line of the military and their institutions. That's the bias chain. But should they have an alternative or opposing forces within the military that do not want to see or support what Paul Biya is doing and act fast in support of the people, then that's the people's coup, because they are acting to build the people and they are acting to defend the people. But because the people are weak or they are being intimidated by the BS military, they step in to defend the people, which is the Chiroma side. Then one would say this is the people's coup d'etat. Now the question then becomes, what happens after? Will they seek power? If they should take power from Chiroma, would they return the power to Chiroma? Or are we going to see a Burkina Faso kind of scenario where the military takes over and wants to run the country?
Yes, but you agree that in this case, for example, they don't take the power. They just neutralize the government and Biya and ask Chiroma to come to take the power. Otherwise, that will lead to a civil war directly. So it's clear.
Absolutely. The best option, if we have to go with this third option, the best sub option with this third option is that's the military option. That's the third option. The best outcome or the possible outcome that should be acceptable is they step in to protect the people's vote, neutralize whatever thing is happening, and hand power to the rightful winner.
No,
that's peaceful. That's a peaceful transition there. But if they should take the power and want to hold on to the power, there will be a civil war because the other side will want to fight back.
Right.
And Cameroon will be in a precarious situation. These are the challenges that await Cameroon over the next few days. Now, let's think out of the box. Let's even assume that Chiroma today is not being kept or protected by the military, a Cameroon military, or he is somewhere building a rebel force. Who wants a rebel force to emerge from the north? Given what we already know in the far north, is this country ready to push Chiroma into forming a rebel group that wants to march onto Yaoundé? Is this what they want? They should be asking these questions. And this is why I kept saying that the fact that Chiroma left his property to wherever he is uninterrupted and protected by loyalist officers should keep Yaoundé awake. They shouldn't be sleeping. They should be having sleepless nights.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a very clear, and I think that you are absolutely right when you are saying that the country is really in a very particular situation, very singular situation. So it's really the kind of situation that could lead to any kind of direction right now. And that it's clear that actors, let's say the main actors, should really be focused and should really have a sort of a patriotic feelings, you see, to really come out of this solution, of course. So, Eric Kacha, nous arrivons au terme de cette discussion qui a été très longue, très animée. J'ai beaucoup apprécié votre disponibilité et aussi surtout les explications dont vous nous avez pu nous faire bénéficier et notamment aussi d'aborder en fait les différents scénarios qui s'offrent pour le Cameroun. Donc à savoir toujours que d'une part en fait c'est le peuple camerounais qui doit rester déterminé donc, pour protéger son vote et puis pour acquérir en fait sa liberté, donc se débarrasser du régime Biya, la deuxième option, c'est éventuellement que à l'intérieur de l'armée, on va dire qu'il y ait d'autres forces loyalistes, voilà, qui décident voilà de rentrer dans l'histoire, de se ranger du côté du peuple et donc de neutraliser en fait ceux qui, comme on peut dire ça, comme ceux qui en fait, ceux qui conduisent la ligne dure de façon à ce que justement le pouvoir puisse revenir à celui qui a été simplement élu. Et puis bon, voilà, l'autre scénario, le dernier que vous avez abordé aussi, c'est au cas où la ligne dure persiste et où on va dire vraiment ce noyau ethnique là veut le maintenir donc le pouvoir, ça sera en fait le Cameroun qui pourrait s'acheminer vers une guerre interne entre ses enfants. Voilà, un scénario forcément que nous ne souhaitons pas voir venir, mais qui va aussi dépendre justement donc de ce noyau dur là à l'intérieur du pouvoir, sa capacité à accepter que le peuple camerounais a besoin d'un souffle nouveau, a besoin d'un air nouveau, a besoin de d'aller vers de nouvelles perspectives et que voilà, leur temps au pouvoir est terminé. Il n'y a plus de raison de leur accorder un quelconque mandat. Voilà, donc Eric Acha, est-ce qu'un dernier mot pour la fin à la suite de cet entretien?
Timba, it's been wonderful. Yeah, it's been very wonderful appearing on your show here. Hopefully, we'll have enough more to discuss in the future, in the days to come, if things depend on how things proceed. But I'll be quite pleased again to reappear on your platform here to share my thinking, my analysis of the situation as it happens. But my last words to Cameroonians, I mentioned that in the course of my discussion is you are facing a once in a generational time opportunity. Do not let this opportunity pass you by, except you are willing to stay and watch for another 20, 40 years. This is a one in a lifetime opportunity. Do not be pushed or do not be controlled or programmed into thinking that you are doing is wrong. That's a mindset they want to give you. That's what they want to instill into the minds of Cameroonians, that what they are doing, or if the country is falling apart, it is your fault. They are trying to blame you for the failings of Cameroon, which is not the case. There they are playing with your minds. What you should understand is that it is their fault. You are only doing what is right by standing up to protect that country. So do not let go. That's my last word. Thanks, Timba.
Do not let go. Voilà, donc il est clair que c'est aux Camerounais, voilà, c'est les Camerounais qui doivent avoir le dernier mot. Ce sont les Camerounais qui, en manifestant ce courage extraordinaire, c'est-à-dire qu'à un moment de la vie publique camerounaise où la société civile avait été complètement décimée, les Camerounais ont montré un sens civique extraordinaire en se mobilisant comme jamais pour pouvoir en fait protéger la sincérité du vote, et ce qui a donc dégagé, en fait, faire renaître quelque part donc le mouvement citoyen au Cameroun. Et en effet, je rejoindrai aussi Eric Acha là-dessus que c'est un moment exceptionnel, extraordinaire dans la vie d'un pays, et que il y a une opportunité qui s'offre au Cameroun pour mettre à bas la tyrannie qui le ceint, qui le détruit de l'intérieur depuis plusieurs décennies. Voilà. Donc, merci encore, Eric Acha. Thank you again for being on board. And I hope, of course, that we will have another opportunity to discuss with you, knowing that you are an expert and you have a lot of knowledge to share. And I think that people following the page will be very, very glad to listen from you. Thank you again, Eric Acha, and see you next time.
Thank you, Timba. It's a pleasure. And keep doing a good job. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.